Good morning and welcome back to the Loopcast. It's Tom, Erica, and Josh. So happy to be back with you guys. My favorite Patriots. I missed you guys over the 4th of July. I hope you guys had a great 4th. A little bit of shout out to the chat. I see it's someone's last day in their 20s. Brother, I'm getting pretty close. Although it's so funny people guess my age. Yeah, I'm reaching that 30 number as well. So welcome to the 30s.
Almost
It's a great time.
I love
I'm knocking on 50, so I don't want to hear
it. And I never tell.
And Erica's ageless. Erica's actually ageless, and you'll never hear her age. She's never going to reveal it.
She's got nothing to worry about. You go to the Loopcast channel and you see like the pictures we use. And it's like 7 out of 8 are Erica. Like, yeah, there's a
yeah. Strangely, there's almost like a prejudice against Josh. I don't know. Come on, the handsome beard.
Hey, it's there now.
Mm-hmm. Yes, we're live. Yeah, let me know in the chat what you guys did for 4th of July. I'm not exaggerating. Well, first off, forgiveness. I'm actually in a spare bedroom today. We moved into a new space, so I have the sweetest bedroom studio setup of all time. I have a huge monitor resting on a bed that might fall over at any time. So apologies ahead of time. But yeah, let me know what you did on the 4th. I went to this wonderful small town in Wisconsin. It was just pristine small town USA. And I think they used their entire town budget on the fireworks display. It genuinely was the most impressive fireworks display I've ever seen.
Love it.
And I got to watch it through the lens of my 3-year-old. Or yeah, he's almost 4. And I don't think there's anything better, barring maybe seeing a kid have ice cream, than watching a young child watch fireworks. It's just pure awe, pure joy. Love this country. It's fantastic. And then we went and saw an 80s hair cover band immediately after. Totally ripped. Best 4th I've had in a long time. Got both sets of grandparents there. It was fantastic. So I'm coming in refreshed, tanned, moisturized, hydrated, ready to rock. We got a great show for you guys. I'm going to give a quick summary. So Grant Platner, wow, that was the big story. All the signs were there, and it looks like the dam just broke. A new allegation now on record for sexual assault. Again, this is alleged, but it seems like based on his response, we're going to get into it. Things are not looking good and could come up with some very interesting scenarios for what happens in Maine. Josh's favorite politician is spared from a challenger. So we're going to get into that. I saw the SSPX news. Really, really sad and unfortunate. But we're going to get into all the details on the SSPX excommunication, or I guess they're formally in schism now. And I got Erica with all the details on that. Other than that, we got a little bit of like DSA takeover. I saw a lot of layoffs. That was going to be my Twilight Zone. I moved it up on H1B, Xbox, Microsoft, layoffs. That's kind of my bread and butter. So we're going to be talking that as well. We got good news. We got Twilight Zone. And I think just right up top, we got to hear, I saw Caleb Williams is posting AMDG and the Pope holding his jersey with the Brian Burch, which I imagine is like the greatest day in Brian's life. The only thing that could have made that better is if it was in America, but it looked like just the greatest time happening at the residence over in Rome. So I want to hear some more on that from Josh, if you got anything from Brian. But before we get into that today, we have Charity Mobile. Now more than ever, it's important to do business with companies that stand with you and your beliefs. Charity Mobile is a pro-life phone company that serves pro-life customers and supports pro-life, pro-family causes. They send 5% of your monthly plan price to your favorite charity, and they have sent millions of dollars to charities over the past 30 years. Not only that, there are no sacrifices when you switch to Charity Mobile. All of their plan prices start under $50 before taxes and surcharges, and their nationwide coverage is the same as the major carriers. And their friendly, pro-life customer service team is based right here in the United States. Plus, Charity Mobile is running a special promotion for our audience. Use promo code LOOPcast to get their free phone offer with every new line of service, plus free activation, free standard shipping. Switch to Charity Mobile and buy the way you believe. To get started, visit CharityMobile.com and use promo code LOOPcast. That's CharityMobile.com, promo code LOOPcast. And Erica, I believe you have something for us.
Yes, our second sponsor, named for one of our favorite saints here, St. Joseph Partners. Every day, millions of Americans are working hard to build a future for their families. They're saving for retirement, investing for tomorrow, and trying to make wise financial decisions. But with rising costs, growing government debt, and economic uncertainty, many are asking an important question: am I building a foundation that will last? For thousands of years, physical gold and silver have helped families preserve wealth through changing economies and uncertain times. Today, many people choose precious metals as part of a diversified, long-term strategy to help protect what they're building. At St. Joseph Partners, we are one of America's few openly Catholic precious metals firms. We believe faith should guide every aspect of our work, which is why we are committed to serving families with integrity, transparency, and faithful stewardship. The best time to explore your options is before you need them. Visit St. Joseph Partners in the link below, scan the QR code on your screen, or call us today at 610-326-2000 to learn how physical gold and silver can play a role in your long-term financial strategy. Thank you, St. Joseph Partners.
Awesome. And before we get into it, Josh, I'm sure your 4th of July included your favorite activities, burning things and eating meat.
You know, I gotta insist, Independence Day.
Okay,
It's
go for it.
Not just a day and a month. I don't like to say 4th of July. Independence Day, lovely time with my family. You know, lots of meats. You know, the hamburgers, brats, and
Big meat guy.
brewskis.
No fish?
Huh?
No fish?
Yeah, I don't think so. That is a penance every time I eat it. And we watched tons of fireworks bursting over Little Traverse Bay here in northern Michigan. It was quite beautiful. Yeah,
Heck yeah.
it was awesome.
It's awesome. It's
And
great.
Erica, of course, you're the closest to the capital.
Yeah, here we are on the East Coast, and you know, the land of the Revolution here in Connecticut. So we had a great 4th of July. We were at home. We had terrible thunderstorms coming through in the evening, so a lot of fireworks displays were canceled. But we had our own little show. We put it on, just us and our massive brood of children. And we had Cotton Eye Joe. We sang "America the Beautiful." I read Lincoln's second inaugural out loud. A few of the children divvied up the Declaration of Independence and did a dramatic reading of the Declaration involving stabbings and large Nerf machine guns in honor of the Second Amendment. It was a rip-roaring time in the Ahern household. And yeah, ate a lot of ice cream and watermelon.
Should we make merch here that just says "giant brood of children"?
Giant. Did I say those words? My filter's not on, guys. It was a long weekend.
Hey, this is an intimate recording of the Loopcast. We're all in our bedrooms, I think.
What's the trust tree? You call it the trust tree.
Oh yeah, we're in the trust tree right now.
Okay.
Speaking of the trust tree, Josh, take me a little bit into this. First off, the Zeal website. Good.
Well, actually, I have a
Looks
connection right here with the
fantastic,
Declaration too, because
please do.
I joked with Brian that, you know, of course, Thomas Jefferson was our 3rd president of the United States, right? But if you look on his tombstone, it doesn't mention that accomplishment. It says, "Here lies Thomas Jefferson, author of the Declaration of Independence, author of the Declaration of Human Rights of Virginia, and president of the University of Virginia." No mention that he served as president of the United States for 8 years, doubled the size of the country. Not even mentioned. But I said, Brian, I told him, I said this, listen, you managing to get the Pope to come to your house on America's 250th birthday, that is a tombstone level.
Yeah.
Josh, before you get into that, did you see the meme about the Dave Ramsey meme where he's interviewing Thomas Jefferson?
I did not.
Oh, it's so good. It's like he's got the arms folded and he's like, "So you're telling me you have 2 different plantations and all of this production?" "Yes, Dave." "You spend it all on books and wine?"
Yeah.
"Yes, Dave."
Which is totally what I
TJ.
would do.
Can't really fault him on that, but
I mean,
so
take me into this.
This is brilliant. I mean, of course, you know, I think Brian and all of us here at Loopcast, all Americans, would love to be able to see, you know, Pope Leo visit the United States sometime during this 250th anniversary year. But, you know, I think precisely because, you know, what Brian had told the media, precisely because he's an American Pope, he doesn't want to play too much favorite to his own country, and he's brand new Pope practically. He wants to be able to visit other countries, like he just, you know, he visited Spain recently. He doesn't want to show preferential treatment, perhaps. So, but he did the next best thing. You know, he did visit the United States in a sense, because he went to the U.S. Embassy right there in Rome and visited with Ambassador Burch and his family. And I just think it's wonderful. And he said, you know, he signed, as you see that, he signed a baseball. They talked about religious liberty. They talked about the church. There's a lot of things that they discussed that, you know, are not necessarily public consumption. But
for Josh's consumption.
Yeah.
Well, maybe.
They sang "God Bless America." I love that. That's so
Yeah,
good.
and the thing is, Brian just kind of said, it was kind of funny because of all the things that they did talk about and the things that he shared with the press. It's the jersey that he gave him from that baseball player. You said Caleb Williams, right?
No. Oh my gosh. Football player, Josh. From the Hammond Bears?
Yeah, no, I'm sorry. We were talking about what's the pitcher? Wasn't
Pitcher. What are you talking about? No, the quarterback of the Bears gave him a jersey, Caleb Williams.
Very good.
Yep.
Well, anyway, he gave him the jersey. That he said that's what's getting the most reaction, the most press, because of course, anytime you do anything sports related, the sports media covers it as well, and it gets into popular culture. So that's kind of fun. Yeah. But he did say, like, we talked about so many different things. We saying God bless America. And it's just funny how the jersey is what makes all the news. But, that's the way it is sometimes.
I will say, unfortunately, very disappointing performance against Belgium. I love the U.S. jerseys. The waving flag jerseys were sick.
The stripes, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was actually really cool.
Are you talking about soccer now?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. which the entire country's done caring about until the next 4 years, but it was a fun run.
I turned it on for 5 minutes and we're down 3-1. I'm like,
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough all around. Rough game. I was watching them. But the other thing that came out of it too was I think they revealed that Pope Leo actively consumes X. I think it's like that he watches social media was one of the things.
Here's the thing that came out of this. Someone reported that he had a burner account on Twitter.
I didn't see that.
That's not true. So Brian actually jumped on that right away. He said, no.
That's really funny to think about.
He does read from Twitter stuff. I mean, he's got the Pontifex account, but there's no I think it was not like an intentional lie. I think it was just a misunderstanding that some of the media thought that meant he had a burner account. No, he does. He's not. He did not say that. He does not have that. So
I would think that
Pierre Delecto,
I think he's got some more important things to worry about than fighting with people on X. It's maybe the least productive thing of all time.
Well, I mean, so.
Anything else? Anything else from that before we get to talk about your favorite politician ever?
You're so rage baiting on this, Susan Collins.
What are you talking about? You love Susan Collins.
I appreciate politicians who are good at their game, even if I disagree with them on major fundamental issues.
Your top two are Nancy Pelosi and Susan Collins.
Oh,
right?
God.
I mean, they are horrible, but man, they are amazing at what they do.
Yeah, we need to step aside and just have all right, put your personal beliefs aside, pure political talent draft. Yeah, Nancy Pelosi certainly.
You look at liberals, like 5 liberals with incredible electoral talent. You have to say Nancy Pelosi. You have to say Susie Collins, even though she's a Republican, she's a liberal.
Yeah.
Mondami has got incredible talent.
For sure, no question.
But I don't like him. AOC, incredible political talent and communication skills, even though I find her, detestable, her views and her policies. So
what do you think about Gavin Newsom? Is that raw talent or is
no,
that
I don't.
He turned. What happened is about a year ago, he became what I would like to call a tryhard. He's imitating too much of
the podcast,
the
style. I'm going on the podcast and I'm going to have smash mouth tweets, and it's like you're misreading it. Your own audience isn't going to dig it, and it just comes off as too fake. So, no, I don't think he's got. I think he's stumbling too much on his own. I make the point. I think it's going to be probably Kamala Harris in 2028. So we'll see.
Well, your third favorite politician, but this is a great.
Well, she doesn't actually have a lot of talent, but like the other boxes. 4 I mentioned.
But speaking of talent, that actually is a great segue into this because we're talking about Graham Platner, who the reason why he's back is he's in this contentious race against Susan Collins, total outsider, ran to the left of the former governor of Maine on just about everything, hard left, seemingly this new brand of
current governor of Maine, but yeah,
exactly. So who's going to be running? But he was seen as this new brand of Democrat, supposed to be the heir to say the Bernie Sanders or the Elizabeth Warrens, for sure. DSA,
of America, yep.
And unapologetically, newcomer to politics. They is kind of funny now in hindsight. Everyone's going through and they're like, he's an oyster farmer was what he was kind of coined with, which is funny because that really wasn't how he made his money. Maybe technically true. But people are going back and kind of redigging in. And I think before I even get into the full story, that was the narrative, that was the feeling, that was why there was the energy in Maine, was that he was one of these really talented politicians that could reach across the aisle, talk to voters that disagreed with him, super raw, a Trump-like figure, potentially, almost a Trump-like moment.
Right.
Because I was even thinking about this too, like if you were to run as a Republican, a hardline Republican on immigration, I don't know, 10 years, pre-Trump, you would be treated similarly to how they're treating Graham Platner right now. He's like their version of we're going to rip the institutional Democrats and we're going to run harder on what people actually care about. Again, let's just set up the caveat here. I disagree with many of Grant Platner's policy proposals, but we kind of got to analyze this in terms of energy. Why is the energy here? Why was he successful at this point, even with all the scandals? So I mentioned he was running. So now the immediate question after this latest scandal drop, when to get into the specifics of the allegation, is whether he drops out of this race at 5 p.m. Eastern time, July 13th. That would have been shocking to just about anyone a week ago.
Crucial deadline, right?
Crucial deadline that would allow Maine Democrats to pick a replacement by July 27th. But we're talking about a guy who's getting like New York Times coverage. He basically forced institutional Democrats to support him very uncomfortably. He won 70% of that primary vote. Previous current governor dropped out of this race, which should have been almost a shoo-in.
And until that June 30th poll from Fox News, he was neck and neck with Susan Collins in all the polling.
Right.
Including on Polymarkets too. So he was looking to be giving her
considered the front runner. That's right.
Considered the front runner, and then we get this Fox poll on like I said, June 30th, so over the long weekend, and Collins is sort of seeming to pull ahead a little bit, and then we get the rape allegation coming from his former girlfriend, and that drops over the weekend.
And it should be noted that the New York Times had written an article about all of his dating and and all the women he had with or whatever, and included, they interviewed a conservative woman who had said that he had,
Lindsay Fifield, right? Who, Erica, you kind of like know someone who knows someone.
Yeah, I mean, she's really well known in circles in DC as a conservative writer and thinker and activist analyst. She's a Republican now. And I think Rachel Bovard is connected with her. So there's been a lot of pointing out that when this story dropped, I think it was 10 days ago in the New York Times, it included Lindsay. She was front and center, the center of the story. And the way that it was reported by the New York Times was skeptical. Right. But they told her, they had her story out there. And the way that she's and also they included that there were two other women who have these allegations, including Jenny, who came out this weekend, who is a Democrat and characterizes herself as a Graham Platner supporter. She even says in the interview with Jake Tapper at one point, she says, one of the reasons it took me so long to come forward with this rape allegation was because I supported his policies politically and I would vote for him, which is in itself requires a little analysis.
For our audience, just a second on this, Erica, because I want to make sure people understand.
Yeah.
Like the New York Times was interviewing a bunch of these women, and then they told Lindsay, the New York Times reporters told Lindsay, we're going to include your story with other stories of other women who have likewise been abused. Right. And then when the article ran in the New York Times, it was all on Lindsay and all
90%
her accusation. And she tends to be the super conservative woman with all these connections. And it made it seem like there was just this conservative woman who's trying to take out a Democratic Senate candidate. And so the way the reporters presented it to her, what they were planning on doing, and that what ended up as the published story was a complete baloney. And and as you said, they interviewed this other woman, Jenny, who was kind of intimating to the Times, like, he also was, abusive, without going into graphic detail, in other words, with rape. And so the New York Times article runs and it's just like a conservative woman trying to sink the campaign.
And all the Democrats, Elizabeth Warren goes, he's my kind of guy. They all circle the wagons.
Yeah. Okay. Wait, let me pause, because I actually have a question on that. Because so just to go back to the history briefly, he was controversial from the beginning. He kind of owned up to some of his stuff. He's like, I'm going to put everything in the closet. So out of the closet. So what I have so far, he had these deleted Reddit posts about sexual assault. He claims that he was going through a tough time being an alcoholic, having PTSD. And so he was just angry posting on Reddit, really just some disgusting stuff, minimize responsibility of sexual assault. But so I will just say in general, controversial Reddit stuff that he was open about, but they kind of found some more and more, and it just seemed like they were digging and they found more. The second is obviously the Nazi link tattoo, in which if you want to go and do the investigation, there's a lot of people that have at this point. He claims that he accidentally got this tattoo as a Marine in Croatia and didn't know what it was. And the story that they've presented is suspect at best about his knowledge. They said he referred to it as my Totenkopf at one point. And so it's kind of right. Exactly. So it's a little bit suspect there. I'll just say nothing definitive, but people have defended that. And then the third thing that comes out is that he had been sending sexually explicit messages while married. And so now his wife's involved. he comes out about this, and all of this is very recent. So this alleged abusive behavior, as you said, towards former girlfriends. The New York Times story comes out about this. This is about 5 years ago. This isn't like 20 years ago, 50, he was a kid or something. This is fairly recent. And as you said, this lady, Lindsay Fifield, comes forward. She was the main centerpiece of the story. She was put forth before some of the other women, but the one woman, Jenny, this woman, Jenny Resicott, I believe is the last name.
Resco, I think.
She comes forward now to Politico, and there's this exclusive interview with Jake Tapper in the Politico story of her coming forward and saying, I didn't feel like maybe she wasn't ready, or she didn't think that, whatever the case is, she now comes forward with more detailed allegations. And what she said 5 years ago, they're kind of on again, off again, that she texted him something. He showed up at her house uninvited, and that he, I believe she called it textbook rape. So that she was denying, she felt like she had to consent, not consent, but she had to acquiesce because her health was in danger. She had these messages that she said she sent, like after she found out she wasn't pregnant, and that he saw it, left it unread, and didn't respond to it. And she provided some text messages of her warning other women about this guy. So again, they're actually, I think, asking good, uncomfortable questions about this. Again, this is all an allegation at this point, and she's been unable to provide some things that she promised. For example, the messages that she sent him, she said she deleted because she wanted to get rid of all of it. The therapist that she claimed would put this on the record refused to put this on the record. So what we have so far is her testimony, the text messages she provided, and people are really grilling Politico now of, why did you feel, what has been added to this story that has reached this threshold of posting this in terms of your journalistic integrity? And now my question is, and again, I'm analyzing, I think something bad happened here. That's just my instinct. These are allegations. Nothing's been adjudicated in court, and especially with sexual assault, there's plenty of reasons why someone wouldn't come forward. And it's, of course, super intimate and scarring and wounding. I'm sensitive to all of that, of course.
Yeah,
however, my question, Josh, if I could ask a question to you, you're saying that the New York Times kind of intentionally put forward Fifield to keep him protected. But now you think the same media apparatus now is coming out like this past week and are putting forth like minor, there's not really like a smoking gun evidence. Platner's denying all this vehemently, although he's saying he's taking time to reconsider the campaign. Why would this media that shielded him before now all of a sudden come forward and be like, all right, let's sink him with this?
Well, I mean, of course, I like to rip on the media, but they are not monolithic, truly, and I do think the New York Times was detestable because they were intentionally lying, to Lindsay. They're claiming that the story was going to be A, and then they went a totally different direction and focused a ton of the energy and article on her and her political associations to make it seem like she might be politically motivated to try to stop Graham Platner. So I'm singling out the New York Times for their reprehensible coverage of her on this. And the fact of the matter is, it should have been another major red flag for this guy. I mean, like, he had a tattoo on his chest, and witnesses say he referred to it as his Totenkopf, so that, and then he's claiming, I had no idea. Like, you have no idea what the symbol is that you have tattooed on your body. And in fact, it sounds like you did know. And then the allegations against Lindsay Fifield were not rape, but they were pretty abusive behavior, like,
leaving marks,
grabbing her physically, shoving her into a room, that kind of stuff. So it's troublesome, problem behavior. I guess the Democrats are like, well, she's just trying to sink him. And so the New York Times gave them cover to say it was a politically motivated hit piece, right? But then what is the political motivation for this latest one with Jenny Roscoe? She is a liberal. She supports, Graham Platner's views on just about everything. But she just felt apparently really uncomfortable with the fact that the New York Times hung Lindsay Fifield out to dry.
She told that to Jake Tapper. Right?
And I feel like Jenny was just like, look, this guy, I have problems. So I think the reason why it makes sense is there's no incentive for her to come forward. I mean, like, she's not like trying to sink this person's campaign. She's just like, look, I got a problem because what this guy did to me. And so it makes a little bit more sense. And there's no denying that Graham Platner and this woman had met each other. That's like, contrast this with like Brett Kavanaugh. Brett Kavanaugh said, not only did I not do this with this woman, Christine Blasey Ford, I never even met her. I had never met her. And so all Christy Blasey Ford would have to do is show some evidence that the two were at the same place at the same time, and it would have, it could have possibly sunk his nomination, right? But there was nothing. There was no proof. It was purely she said. And she was politically motivated to try to stop Kavanaugh. There's no doubt about it, because she had a long history of being liberal and didn't want another conservative on the court that would vote to overturn Roe v. Wade, which is what he did. In this case, Janie Roscoe has really, what's her political incentive?
I would say that institutional Democrats have a lot of political incentive to take out Platner.
Okay, they do, but why would she? And again,
they could pay her. You don't think that she could be coordinator or coach? I'm just playing devil's advocate because
I'm just saying that there's, the New York Times could make the case that Lindsay Fifield was politically motivated, and made up the story. I'm saying it seems less politically. I mean, you can make the case that there's this attempt to remove him from the ballot, but maybe. I mean,
it would be a really spiteful. It would basically be saying, and this is all hypothetical, but if institutional Democrats are so threatened by Platner and they detest him so much that they would go to the lengths to basically lose this election instead of rolling the dice and winning it essentially with Graham Platner, which they could, and then maybe they work with him as opposed to now working with.
I kind of feel like they would want people that are like damaged goods. That was the whole thing about Eric Swalwell. That he was extremely useful to him because they could always blackmail him. And at the moment that he became a problem, they got rid of him. So, I get that. So, but to me, Graham Platner would have still been useful, right? And because
certainly more useful than Collins,
doing well in the polls. It's not like he sunk in the polls dramatically, like he was down 15 points. So in other words, I just, it's easy to say that a bunch of people got Jenny to come forward. Who knows? Maybe she just came forward.
No one knows.
Hard to say.
Actually, Erica, I'm just curious. We haven't really gotten your take on all this in general. Is there anything in here you feel noteworthy or?
I think that several things can be true at the same time. And we talked about this yesterday, that in fact, Graham Platner is just a terrible human being who probably just needs to be in therapy and alone for the rest of his life, repairing what damage can be repaired with his wife and his family. Public life is no place for a guy with this kind of record and this many red flags. And so that can be true. It can also be true that institutional Democrats are behind the scenes, just thank God, relieved that this has been taken off their hands. Could there have been a thumb on the scale that the story came out this weekend? Sure. Could Jenny have also had pure motivations of just this is wrong? That can also be true. This is just how human affairs work. I think that for me, the bottom line is the Democratic Party is having a terrible time finding just solid candidates who it can uphold as it tries to do to navigate this sort of rise of democratic socialism, tries to navigate this post-Trump world that we're starting to look at with 2028 coming upon us. That these are the candidates that we're coming up with. Swalwell, he's out. Platner, this is terrible. This was a terrible candidate.
I want to echo what you're saying on this one, Erica, because I feel like after Trump won again in 2024, a little bit of the Democratic Party kind of snapped in a sense. Something broke a little bit, and they're like, oh my gosh, we need to get blue collar white men to vote Democrat again. And the Democratic Party had spent 5 years, this great woke awareness campaign saying everything white and male was bad. And the only way if you could be a white male and not be bad is if you were trans or gay. But if you're just a regular white man, they absolutely hated you for a good 5 years.
I remember that.
And then they lose the presidential election in 2024, which they should have. They felt
they're how could we lose? Yeah.
And they're like, gosh, how can we get these racist Nazis to vote for us? I know, we'll find a Nazi racist a-hole. And they got Graham Platner. It's like, yeah. So thank you for telling me, Democratic Party, that you think white blue collar people have Nazi tattoos and just abuse women. And fantasize about joining the military to kill people. If that's really what you think white conservative men are like, you got a long road ahead of you of losing elections, because this is a bunch of garbage.
That's a talent. That feels like a talent pool issue. Well, two things. One, we're watching young candidates have to run with social media histories is the first thing that comes to mind. Most of the people in the Senate are 70, 80 and don't have as many things on the record or things you can find on the internet. So you're trying to navigate that for sure. And then the second thing is you're saying your talent pool is so shallow. you'll take someone with this many scandals that is charismatic, that can speak, that looks the part. Even like, I just think his charisma must have overcame so much opposition research because all this stuff is so easy to find. I just don't even understand who was doing the research on this guy.
Well, so I think that's
DSA.
I think that's what it comes down to too, though. It's not just a shallow talent pool, because I think there are young Democrats out there, probably even young socialists out there, who don't have this kind of baggage. But it's a laziness issue as well, and the laziness comes from almost this willful ignorance of what they're looking for. Like Josh said, like, okay, everything is so identity driven that they just have these racist labels, like we need a white guy who's worked on the shore of Maine. Oh, harbor master. That sounds conservative and stupid and like working class. Like that's
it's cosplay.
It's cosplay.
Great. Just like James Talarico in a different way.
Yeah.
He's a Christian.
It's like the main version of it. He's Christian.
It's like the John Dutton meme. The John Dutton meme of him like sitting on the edge.
Yeah,
Remember that the Kamala Harris campaign thing where she had like obviously gay dudes sitting on the tailgate and he's got with his legs crossed. Yeah, totally. It's like
white dudes for Harris. Remember that one?
Yeah. So anyway, I just want to kind of round this out a little bit because now there's some interesting possibilities on the chair. So why people are saying it's essentially over is because we get Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and then the DSCC chair, Kristen Gillibrand, basically said you got to withdraw and that we're not going to invest in the main Senate race, even if Platner remains on the ballot. So he's going to get no more money.
But you know what? And she was able to push Al Franken over the edge, if you remember. Kristen Gillibrand did. So the thought is maybe she could, go 2 for 2 here. But the problem is Graham Platner holds all the cards. If he doesn't want to withdraw, Democrats are screwed in Maine. So like he
got
could go down 70%
with the of the vote.
Like what incentive does he have? And like people online are just like, no, you got to quit. It's like, or he can be like Ralph Northam and not quit, and you'll still back him.
So you think, is that your prediction? You think he's not going to quit?
I think he's telling the Democrats in Maine and the establishment, I get to pick my successor. And, if you pick this leftist DSA type person to replace me, then I'll quit. But otherwise, no.
I wonder if there's a scenario because all the people telling him to quit now are the establishment that he ran with disdain for.
No, not just that. Bernie Sanders. No,
I understand. Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, Ro Khanna, they've all said
so DSA types people are also telling him to quit.
Yeah, for sure. But this would be the most middle finger. He could go out in a blaze of glory. These people this is a hit job. They don't want to support the cause that I support. And then he could, even though he'll probably lose, can use this as a launch board for, DSA ideas nationally. Because he can just be a martyr essentially.
He'll do a podcast.
A hit job.
Yeah, he'll start his own podcast, his own.
He's well spoken. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And someone was making this point on, I think it was Breaking Point.
In other words.
Yeah, it was Breaking Points this morning. If he quits and he just says, okay, fine, like it was too much, I got to go reflect on my life, then his political career is over. Like that's just the end. But if he goes out, like you said, Tom, in a blaze of glory and he just sees it through, he's got the world's his oyster, not to use.
Erica.
I had to put that in there.
It's true. I mean, we've seen examples of this. You think this is the first sex scandal to hit a politician or someone? It's almost like if you can outlast it, it almost makes you stronger.
This is a rape scandal, so it is
true. True, but this has not been. He hasn't been. This hasn't gone through court. There's been no sentencing.
No, I understand that.
So this is still an allegation at this point, and I'm sure there's ways that you can find to disprove it. I mean, Trump went through all of this too. Like, it's just kind of a feature of probably politics since the beginning of time. I'm sure. Remember you're speaking of Thomas Jefferson. Wasn't the big thing that he had an affair with a slave, and that was brought up in
Sally.
So, but I think baseline, if you're just observing it with your own eyeballs, something's clearly off with this guy. He has not solved his alcohol problem. Like he said that he had a problem with alcohol and yet he still drinks. So that's a big red flag. And then these are like obvious character issues that you would not want anywhere near public office. But there's plenty of, hucksters.
And the establishment Democratic Party absolutely did not want him to win the nomination. And they're the ones clamoring on him to quit. And so I think he's eventually just going to give him a middle finger back because they wanted the current governor, Janet Mills, to be the nominee. and she was expected to be it. And the Grand Platner got the grassroots excited, and he, came up with a massive triumphant victory. She actually quit the race basically 3 weeks before the actual election because she knew she was going to lose.
Totally.
And so that what's going on in Maine is not just contained to that. It's what we see with the 3 elections in New York, within Denver. The DSA is growing, and for them, it's like being a very liberal candidate is not enough. You need to be a socialist, and you need to hate Jews, and that's what's got to happen. It's crazy.
Yeah.
I'm going to get, you actually have
We're going to get into that.
We're going to get into that. Thank you for the segue. Let's go into now Erica, Nazareth Organics.
But we do have some sponsors first before we get into the DSA. Nazareth Organics, from God's hand to your skin. Nazareth Organics is a Catholic family-owned skincare company that handcrafts nourishing balms and serums using clean ingredients from nature. I used one last night. Check out their summer combo sale to get you through the heat of summer. It includes the cleansing oil to clear excess oils from your skin while leaving it nourished and hydrated, like Tom is today. The antioxidant serum to increase collagen production and protect against premature aging, and the body butter to soothe those inevitable bug bites and sunburns. Also, try one of their best sellers, the Sleep Balm, a magnesium tallow blend infused with magnesium from the ancient Zechstein seabed. This balm relaxes muscles for peaceful sleep. It is safe for pregnancy and children. My daughter uses it. It makes for an awesome sleep aid for the whole family. St. Paul tells us our bodies are temples of the Holy Spirit and must be cared for. You are not your own. You were bought with great price. So glorify God in your body. Visit nazareth-organics.com and use code LOOPcast at checkout. Thank you, Nazareth Organics. And then now that you've taken care of your body, let's take care of your mind. We have Christendom College. You have seen the headlines. I am on fire today and felt it in the classroom. More and more schools are trading truth for efficiency and social engineering. True that. You're searching for a better path forward, and you don't have to walk it alone. Christendom College has launched a new self-paced online course completely free. Education at the Crossroads, taught by Dr. John Kerwin. You will trace how schools stopped forming souls and started managing outcomes, and discover the Catholic answer, the classical vision of learning as a journey toward God, guided by the wisdom of the Church. Don't let the noise of modernity decide the future of education and our culture. Equip yourself with the clarity and confidence to bring truth, goodness, and beauty back to your home and community. Start Dr. Kerwin's course free today at educationatthecrossroads.com. That's educationatthecrossroads.com, or click the link in the description below, or check out that QR code on your screen. Thank you, Christendom College.
Word. Thank you, Christendom. Okay, on to the next section here. We're going to talk DSA, Democratic Socialist America. I think we actually briefly did a little bit of we didn't get into it with enough enthusiasm, I think, because the head of this section is Graham Platner. Didn't happen in a vacuum. He ignited energy in Maine, which should have just been like an afterthought. And so now everyone's trying to get the secret to the sauce, basically, of why Graham Platner was so successful, what animated voters in this way. I think in particular on the left, in what seemingly feels like a potential MAGA type energy, a populism energy coming from the left style. Not of course in ideas, but also I'm just comparing energy and excitement. Right. So we have, Mamdani obviously being the most popular of these people, but he went and endorsed other DSA type candidates. So we're looking at Chris Rabb in Philly, Francesca Hong in Wisconsin, DAC and Claire Valdez in New York City, who just went on to big time victories, upsets in a couple cases. Malak Kiros in Denver is funny. She was born in Ethiopia and is calling for reparations. But one of the hits I saw on her was she would potentially be the second Gen Z member of Congress. She currently holds no stocks and has up to $250,000 in student loan debt. And I don't think this is the diss that I think whoever came up with that thought it was. I think it actually points to the energy of why people support these type of people. But Erica, you went and got a profile on the DSA and a lot of the demographics of where they've gained ground, who they're popular with. So if you want to get into that now, I think that would be helpful.
Yeah, this is interesting. So just before, I guess, but we'll flip it. Before we do the political platform, like what they're actually asking for as DSA candidates. So who are the people who are attracted to this? And you've got, no surprise, they are typically, and this includes, I went through polling and surveys of both activists who are active members, but also just people who have voted for the candidates in general. So primarily under 40 years old, we're looking at Gen Z. The largest cohort of the DSA are 25 to 34 years old. So right there in your age range there, Pogo, not to tell your age.
Commie Pogo.
Yes. Yeah. So older Gen Z. They are significantly more educated than the broader US population. And they're mostly concentrated in blue states, especially urban areas. So we're talking highly educated, college degree or business degrees, up teen graduate degrees, large metropolitan areas, college towns, no surprise there, and high cost coastal cities. Many of them would consider themselves, or they qualify as middle class, and they carry significant student debt, either housing debt or they are renting at high prices, and unstable employment. Mostly those who are employed are in the service sectors. We've got teachers, nonprofit workers, probably lots of nonprofits around DC, graduate students, journalists, software, healthcare, all of that. And interestingly enough, they are majority white. So we're not talking about this like broad-based coalition of the POCs, but this is mostly white, highly educated, liberal. Says that they're more racially diverse than many progressive organizations, et cetera. And when you look at the candidate lineup, the people who are winning these primaries, many of them are first generation Americans. So their parents came over, or at most second generation. So you'll see that their parents immigrated from a lot of failed state countries.
Wait, but you said the majority are white.
The majority of supporters,
okay.
voters, activists, but the candidates themselves, like if you're looking at Mamdani, you're looking at, yeah. So you're looking at
and Francesca Hong out of Wisconsin, she's running for governor. Her parents were here as graduate students on student visas, and she was born in this country, so she has birthright citizenship.
Right.
Love it.
Same with DAC, Claire Valdez, Melat Kiros. So Kiros herself was born in Africa, in Ethiopia, I believe.
Ethiopia, yeah.
She's actually herself an immigrant to the country. So yeah, it's an interesting demographic for sure. And what they're responding to is these political platforms, and one of the reasons why I think this should be on everyone's radar, and we're starting to see it, is that over the weekend, we got a lot of language from Mamdani in a speech, which I hope we can play a little bit of later on, that was then answered by speeches from Trump. We got a message from Kelsey Reinhardt, our president. Bishop Barron came and spoke out, and they're like, guys, we need to start paying attention to socialism again, because it wasn't defeated in 1989. And then communism, which is often equated with socialism, that also came up. This is not quite communism yet. So from the website of the DSA, they say, we want a democracy that creates space for us all to flourish and not just survive, and answers the fundamental questions of our lives with the input of all. Sounds great and American, right? Now listen, we want to collectively own the key economic drivers that dominate our lives: energy production and transportation. We want multiracial working class united in solidarity instead of divided by fear. We want to run radical, in scare quotes, reforms like single payer Medicare for all, defunding the police, the Green New Deal, and more, as a transition to a freer, more just life. So you can hear in there that element of Marxism. We've got the utopian vision and ideal. And how do you get there? You get there by sorting everyone into these classes of oppressor versus oppressed. And the democratic socialists are like, we're going to take you, the oppressed, and we're going to challenge the oppressor, which is exactly what Mamdani's speech characterizing the entire history of the United States centered on. So they're asking for things like universal health care, tenant rights, so rent freezes is what we heard from Mamdani's campaign, affordable housing, student debt relief, Freudian slip, student debt relief, free buses was a big one on Mamdani's, climate policy, so sustainable energy, quote unquote, definitely no nuclear power plants. big thumbs down on nuclear, big thumbs down on coal. Criminal justice reform is what their website says, but what that actually means is defund the police and abolish the prisons.
And ICE.
And ICE, abolish ICE, big one. And then, of course, Palestinian anti-Israel, pro-Palestinian anti-Israel, big like harnessing of that anger that's in the more populist, leftist, highly educated.
In which the DNC just completely avoided in their autopsy. But what was going on in Gaza was completely central.
Like, we've had people, all three of us have recognized the problem with student debt. And we've talked about the need to change this. And sometimes we get some of our, older listeners like, come on, I had college debt and it was no big deal. But the fact of the matter is there's charts that show you that, like, what college education and healthcare costs, all things that we have tons of quote investment from government, and the inflation rate is like 3 times everything else. And so I do want to avoid situations where you have like this woman born in Ethiopia. She runs for Congress out of Denver. She's never really had a real job. She's just been an organizer her whole life. She's got $250,000 in student debt. Now, the fact of the matter is, how do we fail as a society to allow people like this to borrow $250,000 with no real ability to
not
pay
just
it off?
allow it, but tell them it was the only way to get ahead in life?
Well,
like, it was worse than allowing.
Go back to the beginning, though. How could that possibly be worth $250,000? Someone just made up that number. There's if it doesn't have a value attached to it at the end, it's completely divorced from any competitive forces in the market. So how could anything be $250,000?
Kid goes into a bank trying to get $20,000 to start a business will be laughed at. But we give these kids $50,000 a year to go to school. That's one of the things. The One Big Beautiful Bill, honestly, has done so many good things, and a lot of these policies are finally taking effect like a year later or whatever. But like, we're now capping it. We're capping the amount that students can borrow. We're capping the amount that graduate students can borrow. We're even capping the amount that parents can borrow on behalf of their kids. We want more. Here's a word that they like to use: sustainable. We need it to be sustainable. We can't allow people to mortgage like the equivalent of an entire house before they've actually earned a darn paycheck. So this is one of the things, and they live in luxury. Like, I went to college 30 years ago. It was not, now it's like, it's
Josh,
insane.
If I may, as
rant, but I do believe that these student loans, and then they're in college and they live like kings, and then they enter the workforce and they got a crummy apartment, and it sucks. And so they get mad, and it agitates. The socialists agitate for this, and they foment revolution.
Yes. And by the way, historically, this is how revolutions start. So as the resident, I would be in the Commie DSA demo. I have friends that are attempting to start their lives and be productive members of society. And, it's stuff like this, like Caroline Leavitt she was interviewed by Jesse Waters. And she made this long response after giving her answer, but she essentially was asked by Jesse Waters, like, is it a laziness? Is it an entitlement of Gen Z? And she's like, yes, Gen Z's lazy and Gen Z's entitled. And she came and she qualified it. And to me, I'm like, okay, so if I'm here and I look at the job numbers from 2025, job creation numbers, I'll share this graph. So we're looking at the U.S. economy adding 181,000 jobs in 2025. That's according to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. That averaged out to just 15,000 jobs per month, making it the weakest year for employment growth since 2020. And then also these gains are in things like the healthcare sector, which is not a great sign if you want a healthy country. Construction.
Boomers getting older.
Boomers getting older and taking care of sickly, people that are getting sick and getting older is not great for the future. We are a country of 450 million people. Theoretically, how many illegal immigrants do we have in here is up for debate, but I'll say conservative estimate, 30 million, probably more. We only created 15,000 jobs per month for a country of 450 million people. Is insane.
Million.
I think we're 390.
350.
All right, 350. Maybe that's a mistype, but you get my point. I propose that two things are connected here. Estimated percent of 30-year-olds who are both married and homeowners from 1950 to 2025. If you want to take a look at this graph, it's insane how low that is now post 2020. And it was over 50% in 1950. The cumulative total of foreign-born white-collar workers in the U.S. per year, 1950 to 2025, 1950, very low, 2025, insanely high. Microsoft just laid off a crazy amount of workers and had applied simultaneously for a ridiculous amount of H-1B workers.
So much for learning to code. They
Exactly.
can learn to code, right?
And let's take a look at how many people graduated here. It's just completely unacceptable to graduate 4.7 million college students per year and create only 181,000 jobs. We have 25 college students competing for every new job. That's before factoring in legal, illegal mass immigration, and people who lost their jobs during COVID. And the tweet from this guy, Fugitive Caesar, my reaction to these numbers today was pure horror, shock, concern, and the realization we're going to get a civil war if we don't fix this. I didn't think the economy was this bad right now, and it's a huge danger to have unemployed intellectuals like Lenin and Trotsky. I'm talking to people that did everything right. They worked their butt off getting good ACT, SAT scores to get into a good college, and they didn't do a BS degree. They didn't do basket weaving. They studied engineering. They studied computer science. Very smart people that cannot get jobs are applying over 100 times to different jobs, and then are applying to like minimum wage jobs and can't even get those. And so you're sitting with a third of the labor force just not working. There's a third of the labor force that just have given up looking for jobs. We have the majority of people now under 30 are living with their parents as a way to try to pay off their loans, certainly, but also because housing is out of reach. And I'm talking about in like Michigan. I'm not talking about in New York City. So I can only imagine what people are dealing with in New York City. So I think an easy opportunity for people that believe in private property, would like to have a reasonable police force and are not insane on the gender spectrum and the nuclear family should address this harshly. And it's like, I get so frustrated when I hear, well, those commies, they just want free stuff. But I look around and see the experience of my friends and not a good response from reasonable people. Instead, reasonable people are saying, as you said, Josh, well, pull yourself by your bootstraps. Gen Z's lazy. Like, these are not the people I know that are really struggling. So easy solution to this is we need to just destroy H-1B or have a real punishment for doing this. I saw that Toyota's building a factory in San Antonio. That's great news. Hopefully that brings some engineering jobs or jobs. But the reality is we're graduating millions of people in which there's no jobs for and saddling them with hundreds of thousands of debt.
So we saddle with them with proportionately a lot more debt than people graduating from college 30 or 50 years ago had.
Not even
a
close.
lot more, proportionally a lot more, precisely with, as you say, H-1B visas were giving incentives for companies to undercut our native-born labor force. That's a problem. And then you had Joe Biden allowing 8 to 10 million people come into this country illegally, which the Federal Reserve just put out a report this week saying that caused a major jump in the price of both the rental market and the housing market, like 20, 30% each.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm. Right?
Yeah. So like, what you're creating is all these kind of cost constraints. And the thing is, I think people who are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, and 70s are like, oh yeah, I remember what it was like in the 20s. And, you're kind of bumming around and, you weren't like hyper productive and you're just kind of finding your way in the world and everything was expensive and you couldn't go out to eat. And, and basically their thought is, yeah, I remember those times. You should suck it up and stop complaining. And what we're trying to say is that the times are fundamentally different for those who are in their 20s right now. And if you just go on, if you can't see that, you get these kind of occasions where like, how did that happen? Wow, how didn't they know in the French the Revolution that things were going to get really bad? Like, what a bunch of idiots! Can't they see how? Like, we're trying to wake you up.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of fundamental problems, and we can make things better. Now, I do think Trump administration, by encouraging people to self-deport, and we actually had more people leave the country that came in this last year, and so we're starting to see a release on some of this stuff, but we got to do better. And I do think the changes on the student loan stuff, but it's going to take some time on that. And I'm just begging, because I'm an old cranky dude too. But look, I'm an old cranky dude who understands and appreciates that people in their 20s are facing a lot more today than I did in the 90s or that some of the other people listening did in the 70s. And I know about the double-digit, percentages that you pay on your mortgages. Brother, I know. That's my mom and my dad. They had it, 15, 16% on their house. I get it. But there are things. So it was tough to raise a family in the late 70s.
Yep.
But we're not even getting family formation right now, precisely because it is category difference worse. And people need to know it, and that's what's fueling.
Wait! I want to hear
DSA socialism. Sorry,
I want to hear. Yeah. We're on the same page.
I would like to get in here. So tomorrow's deep episode is exactly about this. It's about why Gen Z can't adult, and it's like everything that you guys are talking about here with all the economic factors. And I think that one thing missing from the conversation is that there's also the fact that we're handing this state of affairs to. When we say like, okay, all these DSA activists and voters are highly educated, but they're not really educated, right? We're talking about
highly credentialed.
But in terms of education, we're handing this state of affairs to the least civically educated, the least literate, and one of the worst at math ever generations in American history, like probably since the 1600s. And what the issue there is that a lot of generations have faced terrible odds, right? You can go read stories of the pioneers. Like it was not a walk in the park. It was pretty bad there out in the plains, right? And it was pretty bad during the Great Depression in terms of family formation. It was bad during the Industrial Revolution for the Luddites in England. People have faced enormously difficult circumstances and invasions, right? The difference is that if you have a strong mental, intellectual, spiritual core, you can persist through just about anything. The human race and communities have flourished against many odds.
Right, but that's not ideal. I wouldn't create a situation so that we can flourish in bad odds on purpose.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that right now we have a bad situation and an unprepared generation, which compounds everything that Josh was just describing and that you're seeing on the ground, Pogo. Yeah. And that's what the Deep's about tomorrow. So everyone should go watch that. Yeah. But I think that it's important because a lot of this conversation, if we keep it at the level of we have this economic crisis, right, and it's so hard economically, then the response is just going to be, well, we just need to address affordability. But the lack of family formation is not simply because of it can't afford a family. It's a much deeper spiritual and formational crisis that Gen Z is also being handed at the same or has been handed at the same time. And so to begin to crawl our way out, it's also addressing that poverty with the future generation, starting with Gen Alpha.
Yeah. And here's what's really unfortunate, I think, is I was thinking back to why was that 2024 MAGA coalition so exciting and got young people on board? And I do think that Doge was a major part of this that has just gotten lost in the mix of like, it was such a potent political message to just point out all the different areas in which everyone knows someone that's kind of scamming the government, either with entitlements or through a business. Seriously, like everyone does. Everyone has a story that if you just every week were to post this scam that we busted up, we are saving you this amount of money. And so you go out and you just focus on ruthlessly cutting fraud, making things more efficient. We're done with the foreign policy adventurism, which it seems like we just can't get enough of. But we're not going to be spending $1.5 trillion on the military for some unexplained reason other than total dominance that is inflating our dollar. We're going to focus on the home front. We're going to get inflation under control. We're going to get rid of, we ran on a mass deportation campaign, and I wasn't shy about, Trump wasn't shy about that. All the signs that said mass deportation now, mass deportation now. It wasn't, let's kind of quietly detain people and see what happens. It's like, no, we actually want 20 million people that should not be in the country out of the country. That was popular. I don't know why we're just not getting back focusing on that. So word to the wise, someone's going to solve this economic problem. It could be through socialism and communism, and it's going to speak to people my age that got the college degree, that worked hard, that feel ripped off and are not spoken to. Unfortunately, what comes with that is no freedom of religion, abortion everywhere, LGBTQ craziness. It just does. It's just a feature of what happens here. So I'd prefer that the quote free markets people that are addicted to cheap labor, H-1B, illegal immigration, would sacrifice a little bit of that so that I can practice my Catholic faith and not be under constant harassment from the health authorities and whatever. I want them to win. But at this point, I'm so frustrated with some of these Republicans. Like I saw Mitt Romney is on the podcast circuit. Awesome.
No.
And he's like, I can't believe
what?
Elon Musk is a trillionaire now. This is crazy because he has so much influence over politics now. I'm like, brother, you are the product of an Elon. Like you are Elon Musk, basically. Your entire campaign was basically allowing for Elon Musk to exist. You refuse to touch things that people actually care about. And that's why you lost. So, spare me if I don't want to hear Mitt Romney or all these other neocons that just care about war. I want to hear how you're improving my life tangibly. That is what politics is all about.
It'd be a nice first step.
What?
It'd be a nice first step if maybe, I don't know, the House of Representatives, passed a bill getting rid of H-1B visas.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that would go so long. Right. That would go so long to actual Americans because the only people that benefit from that are not Americans and business owners, by the way. Right. So it's like, just do something for the average, middle class, trying to make it in like 20s, late 20s, early 30s. I'm really trying to think of business proposals because what's happening now, and I'm going to get into it in my good news, is even like the left, these left populists are like, yeah, we're just going to slash property taxes. What? Like even everyone wants to do that because they all just pandering to people with the most voting power. So anyway,
talk about unintended consequences are going to happen there.
Yeah, let's get into good news now before I get into that.
Okay.
Erica, talk to me about George Washington.
Okay, so over the 4th of July weekend, I did go see young George Washington. We took the 13-year-old and up segment of our large brood to return to
large brood
earlier phraseology that I used. And it was good. It was good. And how did I know it would be good? Because the critics on Rotten Tomatoes were like 52% positive, but the fans were 92. I was like, this will be totally worth my buck. And
Classic.
It was. Josh, have you seen it yet?
I have not.
Okay, you are in it for a total treat. You're going to love it. History buffs. It follows George Washington in his young George Washington, title gives it away, but it centers around the disaster at Fort Necessity in 1755, where he makes a lot of dumb rookie mistakes as a leader of the militia. And it's a slaughter and, hundreds of men die. But then it also portrays the battle with Braddock, who was led by the British General Braddock, who the thing with historical movies is that what happens. So Braddock dies, but Washington survives. And
spoilers, no spoilers.
Yeah, but it was really well done. It's Angel Studios, and I have to say, Angel has improved.
President Braddock, your first president, Braddock.
So anyway, Washington makes it. So it's going to be okay in the end. Happy ending. But totally, I recommend it.
Visually, I was impressed.
Visually,
for a small budget,
shot.
Visually, it looked
beautifully
really good.
shot. Yeah, it's a little like there's awkward moments with the scripting, and then a couple of the actors, the women are a little weak. Like come on, ladies.
My beef. George Washington was too hot, and I know they had to do it to keep people. But George Washington, kind of famously, not a very good looking guy.
But they did make him super tall. They made him super tall,
beast.
which
Absolute.
was fun to see. It was fun to realize, like, oh my gosh, he was tall. Like all the other guys are like little hobbits kind of going around. And
but not only because he wasn't, and I guess he was a young
actors.
man, so they had to make him skinny. But G-Dub back in the day, massive individual and thick too. Like he was a physically imposing figure. And listen, and the other thing too, Martha. Didn't they have Martha in this?
No, Martha's not in this. No, she doesn't show up. It was his first love, Sally.
Oh yes,
Fairfax,
Sally Fairfax.
She ends up marrying someone else, and like they had to have a love interest story. My 13-year-old son was like, "Oh come on, like just
that's real though." Sally Fairfax. That was actually a real kind of like infatuation in his letters and stuff.
Yeah, it
She's
changed
kind of
him
like
when she dumped him. Yeah, totally changed him.
But yeah, too hot. I know why they had to do it, but I kind of like imagining George Washington. I feel like I'm doing the scene from Talladega Nights where like I like to imagine my Jesus wearing a tuxedo t-shirt. But I like to imagine George Washington as pretty plain looking, but a physically imposing beast. And
super smart too.
He mastered his emotions. And I from what I've heard, they've done a good job. I still have to see it, but I've read enough about his early life to where they showed that he was kind of a brash, ambitious guy that really was working on kind of restraining his emotions. But by the end of his life, because of all the trials and tribulations he went through in the revolution, he became someone that was that had mastered maybe the weaker parts of his temperament and was able to unleash them when he had to, but remain a statesman.
Yeah, that was like
Yeah.
the really deep thing about this movie, and something I appreciated is because a lot of times when we're like, we have to humanize the founding fathers on the left, what that means is we just have to call them all
They own
racist.
slaves. Yeah,
But
right.
yeah, exactly. But in this movie, it acknowledged slavery, but it also showed that line between good and evil, that struggle in the human heart. It's about a lot more than like just identity politics. This is like also about having to master these weaknesses that we have in ourselves, and they did a really really great job of that. And so
Sick.
yeah, it's a good movie, should be supported. Good job, Angel Studios. And then before I have to sneak in one more because
Go
this
for it.
just came across this morning. So for all of my literary nerds out there, the Bishop of Norway has just announced he is opening Sigrid Undset's cause for canonization. Sigrid Undset being one of my all-time favorite Catholic writers, and she wrote Kristen Lavransdatter, and also the best biography of Catherine of Siena out there, bar none. Everyone should go read it. But she is now going. Her cause has been submitted to Rome. Hopefully, she will be a venerable soon, and I'm just really excited. So I'm kind of geeking out over that one.
Norway's on kind of a heater right now.
Norway is
Yeah,
on a heater,
really.
and the
Because-
Viking Row.
I don't know if you've been seeing, the Row and then Erling Haaland.
Yes.
Talk about
Low-key
physicality.
champ.
He is he looks like a Viking. Like it looks like if a
Yeah,
Viking.
He is. I mean,
No, that's what I'm saying. Like he looks
Yeah.
so much like a Viking and I believe they're gonna play England, right?
Yeah,
Which is gonna be an
That's the next
awesome
one. That's
historical matchup. It's gonna be awesome. But he's
my bloodline's going against.
he's one of the
each other.
best strikers in soccer,
Yeah.
and
On
his stuff with.
Saturday.
Have you seen the stuff with his dad?
No.
Oh my gosh. I think his dad also played in the Premier League, was also a soccer player. And, but he wasn't a striker, so he didn't score much. So the one joke they always makes is like, I score unlike my dad, but everything else is like my dad. And I believe when he won, it was either the Champions League or some big tournament, he took the medal off and put it on his father and had him drink some of the champagne. And it's just like some of these moments of his love and admiration for his dad, it just get me right in the heart. So I'm rooting for him.
Yeah, I'm going to root for him too.
Sweet. Okay, Josh, what do you got?
Well, hey, I just want to let folks know, I think this is kind of good news. A week from today, July 15th, I'm going to have a chance to sit down with pro-life activist Mark Hawk, and we're going to talk about his experiences. He obviously had a fight with the very politicized Biden administration, and now he's continuing, to fight to save babies. And so join us. We're going to, you got to sign up though. You got to sign up to be a champion. It's only $10 a month. It helps out the cause. It helps pay the light bills here at the LOOPcast studios. And it helps to do a lot of the things that we do all across the country. So sign up to become a champion. $10 a month. You can do $10 a month. Was that like 2 cups of coffee? Come
No,
on,
in Connecticut, that's just 1 cup of coffee.
That is a latte at
Facts,
Starbucks
guys.
right now.
Yeah, that is a
So
latte.
$10. Sign up. Go to
For 1
Catholic
latte
Vote.
a month.
Yeah.
Go to Catholic Vote, sign up to become a champion, and then you can join us for our live webcast where I'll sit down and talk with Mark, and then you can submit your own questions. Maybe we'll use your question and ask Mark what he thinks on.
Love
on
our
that
champions,
stuff.
man.
So,
Mark Houck, too.
The
Love
smartest,
that guy.
most beautiful, handsome, articulate people out there.
They're
And me
Vikings.
too.
Yeah.
And Josh. Okay, so this one is hilarious to me. I call this good news, I guess, because we got this race in Michigan going on with El Said, and Josh, his favorite politicians in order. Actually, you're not in on this guy, but we're all watching this race, especially as Michiganders or former Michigander in this case. So I'm going to share this.
yeah,
It's
two-way debate
funny.
instead of 3-way because Mallory McMurrow dropped out last week.
True. Yeah, she dropped out. So we had this debate, and this is overwhelmingly 2.2 million views. Everyone is mad at him about this. That's on X, which is hilarious. Is like you could say something because he's kind of like the new darling. He's like the Grand Platner minus a lot of the scandals. Definitely more polished.
Maybe.
And Michigan
see.
swing state. So
Michigan swing states, big election. So here's what he had to say about property taxes.
That I think we need to be freezing property tax for seniors. If you paid off your home at some point, we can't expect you to keep up with property taxes that are going up. Now, how do we pay for that? Well, again, if we tax billionaires their wealth, if we were to invest in the Department of Education so that we're paying centrally for public schools in an equitable way, there are a lot of opportunities for us to lift the burden off of seniors who've done their job. They've worked extra hard. They deserve a dignified retirement, and we've got to be thinking about how to offer them that.
All right.
Oh my gosh.
I have a couple of notes on this.
Please tell me his opponent jumped on that.
No, because she's stupid too.
Oh my
They're all doing this to pander to old voters.
Yeah.
And the funniest thing about this is he's going to go represent Michigan at the federal level. He has no control over this. This isn't even something he can do at the national Senate level. This is local policy. So that's how you know it's kind of unserious.
Taxes are not federal, right?
Right. Property taxes are not federal. So he actually can't do anything about this. So he's just saying this to pander, number one. And then he's getting ripped up and down by all the people that love him, like all the lefties that love him. People on the right are ripping him too. Now, this is what I'll say, because people always get mad about this when I talk about it on the show. If the goal is helping seniors on fixed incomes, use income targeted circuit breakers, deferral, something like that, not a blanket age-based exemption for everyone over 65, especially including wealthy homeowners. That would be my solution, just before everyone gets mad at me about property taxes, because I think there are some reasonable situations where people don't have a lot of money, they paid off their house, value goes up a ton, and now they can't afford it. I think that's bad, generally. So yes, make it income capped. It already kind of is, like Social Security is income dependent. That being said,
or you could just say, once you hit 65, your property tax could freeze, not eliminate it.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so it won't grow.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or grows at a fixed rate or something. There's things you can do.
But that's not what anyone promises.
Give away the whole farm.
Right. That's not what anyone promises. And property taxes are kind of the one tax that I actually kind of support, because it's not like your federal taxes where like, oh, this is going to go to some quality learning center somewhere. It pays for the fire department. It pays for the roads. It has tangible benefits.
The privilege
to
of
your
living
local
in the
community.
town. And yeah.
Exactly. My brother's a firefighter. Like, you should see some of the things that he deals with. These are the people that we should actually be paying, and actually be paying well.
And I do believe in using it for education. I just wish
100%
all education, not
because if you want good teachers, you have to pay them. Like, this is not a hard calculus. So if you take property taxes off of the wealthiest in terms of stocks and property right now, generation among us, then the tax burden either shifts to younger property owners, or to a sales tax, or to some other tax, in which is not going to be distributed evenly. It's going to fall on people that are already struggling. As I said, college graduates that can't get a job in a ton of debt, young people trying to own a house that's basically impossible. So it's just it's kind of a ridiculous proposal that I see now even the most populist of left-leaning politicians embrace, which is just so ridiculous to me. Like, you're going to do socialism without taxes? Like, bold strategy, Cotton. We'll see how it pays out. But the one that always kills me, and I always say, go read this article, Total Boomer Luxury Communism. And again, I love our boomers. I'm not talking about you in particularly. People get so mad at me about this. I'm talking about the general trends. Okay. We're talking about the average. This graph says it all. And China thinks this is insane, by the way. Like, they're kind of benchmarking this to China. Direct taxes and entitlements by age. Take a look at this green. That is Social Security, healthcare, and other benefits. That is per person in 2021 in dollar amounts. We're up to like 35,000 a year. The heaviest tax burden is on people that are 45 to 54 is where it peaks. And then all of the entitlements go up here. And we're talking about like entitlements that apply to golf balls at the range. There has to be some kind of change if we want people to have kids, if we want to continue. What are we doing?
Crazy. Like, I wish that Social Security, when it was first done in 1933 and onward, would just say, we are going to force you to save a portion of your money in retirement so that you'll have something 40 years later. Like, for example, most states, in order to drive, you need to get car insurance, but the government doesn't provide the car insurance. It tells you to go get car insurance from the private sector, but you need to have it. Right. That's what we should do with retirement stuff, because what the government does, in case anyone out there listening doesn't understand this, what happens is immediate money. When you earned your paycheck in 1975 or 1985 or 1995, that money was immediately spent. It wasn't like it was put in a savings account that you're going to tap into 40 years later.
It was not put to work for you. No.
It was spent on crap, on bad stuff. And so then you come calling 40 years later and you're like, I want the money I put in. Well, it's not the money you put in, it's someone else's money. My point is, I don't trust politicians. Duh. So if instead the 12% that's taken from all of your checks for the last 40 years, if the government said, no, we're not going to take it, go to Fidelity, go to whoever and invest that money, we would be super wealthy. So we're not blaming people for the system we have in, unless, of course, you don't realize what the system is. And it sucks. The system is terrible. Like, I mean, the point is, if you would have, you'd have taken that same money and invested in the private sector, you would be even more wealthy at 65.
Right.
This is my favorite meme on it. It's the Democratic Socialist social contract. Nick 30, head and hands, and then down to Simon and Linda 70, P&O cruises, and then in this house we believe Black Lives Matter, women's rights are human rights, no humans illegals.
Black Lives Matter, man. Let me tell you. They did a survey last week of independents, Republicans, and Democratic voters, and they found that the Black Lives Matter flag had a higher approval rating amongst Democrats than the American flag.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I saw that.
That's crazy. So anyway, basically this is generational redistribution in reverse. People with homes get the tax break, and people locked out of home ownership get the bill. That's what I'm saying. Again, if you participate in the system, I'm not talking about you personally. I'm talking about making meaningful change so that young people can start a future and have kids and
without becoming socialists.
That's actually the point. Without actual communism coming and taking it from you.
Yes.
In which you will get, by the way, if this gets bad enough, and it's bad now. So I'm not talking about you if you're participating. I'm talking about the system. So this is actually what our politicians should be focusing on at the local level, at the state level, and at the national level, instead of dumb stuff that instead of like the 40th resolution on Israel. I hate to say it, but like focus on stuff that actually matters.
This just crossed the wires as we're talking here. Trump administration launches its first major H-1B visa fraud investigation.
From your lips to God's ears, man. Holy crap. That would. They're reading Twitter, by the way, because it's blowing, the Xbox thing's blowing up on Twitter.
Well, yeah, and I'm glad that the Trump administration is launching the investigation, but Congress has to, like, they need to do this.
Well, I mean,
can't just be like president to president to president.
Trump alone cannot get rid of H-1B visas. He tried to make it harder by putting a $100,000 fee to it, but the Supreme Court said
no. So it needs to be Congress. And all these, and they're all owned by corporate interests. So they have no interest in doing this. That's why you got Graham Platner up here, all of the sex scandals included. Yeah, a terrible character, but he's talking about actually changing this. Okay, I want to spend some time here because this is a big one for the Catholic world. Yeah. The SSPX is officially in schism with Rome, and tough because I know there's people that listen to this that probably belong to the SSPX. It is a global Catholic. I don't want to get technical with the movement. I'm not going to be able to get technical with the words. I think this is a very sad and unfortunate day for everyone involved, for the church, for SSPX. And so, Erica, I just want to get on the timeline here. What are we looking at? What is the official proceeding?
Yeah, so just like for people who need a refresher, I'm going to go back a little bit further, a few steps backwards here before we actually get to what happened on July 1st, which was the last day that we were recording, actually. So it was just as we were talking last week. So timeline, back in 25-26, the SSPX basically let the Vatican know that it only has 2 remaining active bishops left. The rest of the bishops who had been consecrated by Lefebvre back in 1988 and incurring the first schism with the church back then with John Paul II, they were aging out. 2 of them had died, and that they needed to consecrate new bishops in order to ensure the society's future. So they announced plans. They're going to consecrate 4 new bishops without papal approval. Over the course of the month of June, we had messages from Pope Leo begging them not to move forward, begging them not to do this. SSPX responds with, well, we asked for a one-on-one meeting with you and we didn't get it, and we're going forward with this anyway. There was one more attempt at meetings with leadership, but then on July 1st, at a ceremony in France, which is where the society is based, 4 priests, one of them an American actually, were consecrated as bishops without the papal mandate. The ceremony was conducted by the bishops who were already themselves in irregular canonical status, meaning they were validly consecrated bishops because they were consecrated initially by someone who was an actual bishop of the church, but it was illicit, lacking papal mandate. There were thousands at the ceremony. It was live streamed internationally. And at the beginning of the liturgy, as with all episcopal ordinations, one of the bishops, Bishop Alfonso de Galarreta, who is the principal consecrator, publicly asks, do you have the apostolic mandate? Another clergyman read the response, which was in the form of a bull, which is an official church document, arguing that church authorities since Vatican II have, quote, been animated by a spirit that is contrary to that of the faith, end quote. And it also claimed that all punishment that they might receive from the church would be totally invalid, right? The Pope doesn't have the authority to give us this punishment, basically. Then the bull goes on. It says, it is the Catholic and Roman Church, always faithful to the holy tradition received from the apostles, who, in entirely exceptional circumstances, demands that we provide for the upholding of these traditions, that is, the deposit of faith, and that we take the means necessary to transmit them faithfully, meaning we're going to go ahead and consecrate these bishops because we have a sacred duty, as they said it, toward the Holy Church and souls to proceed. And so, again, they say this is out of compassion. This is out of reverence for the church and tradition that we are doing this. And we don't recognize any penalties imposed by Rome because of this. We'll get into commentary in a second. And then after the Vatican came out the next day saying that, declaring, yes, now we are in formal schism, the society says, we sincerely regret that owing to exceptional circumstances, these consecrations had to be conferred without the authorization of the Holy Father. We wanted to meet with you. We didn't. And so we have grave reason to do this thing, which is a terrible wound on the body of Christ. In addition to schism, there was sort of an unprecedented penalty articulated by Rome in the DDF's declaration. That all of the society's clergy members, so all of the priests of the society and the lay faithful who formally adhere, that's the exact wording, formally adhere to the SSPX, are also in schism and excommunicated. Sacraments of penance and marriage are now additionally invalid, not only illicit, but they are invalid. So very jarring for everyone in the church. I think especially for people who maybe attend an SSPX chapel once in a while to go to the TLM. If you remember correctly, it's also confusing because under Francis, the schism with Rome was sort of lifted, not like officially declared lifted, but he said you can go to them for confession, you can go to the chapel for mass if you can't get to a valid mass anywhere else. And so there's a lot of fogginess there around the SSPX and what it is. Tom, you had asked about, you're like, okay, so what's the Steelman argument? There was a great article just this morning in the Catholic Thing that I would highly recommend. It's a great articulation of what exactly the SSPX's issue with Vatican II is. And it talks about the ties that the SSPX sees with Vatican II's documents and the French Revolution, actually goes way back. And so I would highly recommend, we should throw this article into the chat if people are interested in that history. So that's where we're at, formal schism. And again, knowing that our viewership, there are at least some of you who probably are affected by this deeply, and it is a terrible time. That being said, part of being Catholic is you don't get to just declare the Pope to not have authority to do something that he clearly has authority to do. Like Christ gave Peter the keys of the kingdom to bind and to loose in heaven on earth. And whether you like it or not, the Pope has the authority to declare schism and excommunication. You don't get to just be like, well, I have extraordinary circumstances, so he doesn't. That in itself is schismatic. It's outside of what it means to be Roman Catholic. And I hate to say it.
Yeah, papal authority, kind of a big thing for Catholics.
A little bit. A little bit big. Yeah. And the whole validity of Vatican II thing, it kind of confuses me as well. So there's some really great rundowns on social media about how we know a council is valid. Vatican II hitting all the markers. They say actually it would be a lot easier to argue that Vatican I was invalid because apparently like the Pope started yelling at a bunch of bishops and wouldn't let them be heard and like shut off he like made them leave the room, and a bunch of bishops, like 70 bishops left Vatican I because they were angry about the papal infallibility and supremacy stuff.
Wow.
And so Vatican I is actually more sus than Vatican II at this point. So really
tired and wired. Tired. Vatican
tired.
II said wired. Vatican I was actually the problem.
Oh
Dang.
man, maybe a deep episode in the future there. But
Actually,
I mean, I feel like if bishops in the United States and throughout the world made a concerted effort to make the liturgy much more reverent than it has
Mhm.
been in the previous few decades, and showed an appreciation for Catholics who are nourished by reverence in the liturgy, I think it would go a long way to moving forward in a positive direction. And people might just leave SSPX now that it's schismatic if you make it comfortable for them
Mhm.
to worship the Lord with reverence instead of instead of this instant oatmeal, instant coffee kind of like, you know,
I think accessible is the big thing too, because there's been so many restrictions on
yeah, think of
where you can say
Charlotte.
the Latin Mass.
Yeah.
where you
yeah,
can't say the
obviously,
Latin
I
Mass.
think Pope Francis, putting the Latin based liturgy basically, under in jail, basically. I think prudentially
Well,
he was such a
denigrating it,
horrible
right?
shepherd.
Well, and it
Um,
obviously made it more popular and mysterious. I just think it was a total backfire. Like it made people
Poor
look into it
parenting
that wouldn't have
choices,
before.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that we've seen a lot of these responses in the last 5 or 6 days from American bishops, and many of them are so pastoral and acknowledging the pain of members of the SSPX at this time, but not just SSPX members. Like we have a thriving Institute of Christ the King parish here. You do in Detroit over there,
Yeah.
and they feel under siege and hurt because of all of this as well. And so a lot of bishops just being phenomenal shepherds.
Yeah. Hebda
The
had a great
yeah,
St. Paul in
Hebda.
Minneapolis. Yeah.
Mhm.
Met many sincere people who worship regularly or occasionally at local SSPX chapels, has been impressed by the strength of their families and their commitment to traditional Catholic values, expressed hope that they would not follow the SSPX bishops in separating themselves from the successor of Peter, Pope Leo XIV, and from the church he humbly leads.
isn't it
Yeah.
nice to have bishops speak warm and friendly about traditionally minded Catholics instead of what the
I think that's the big
previous
difference.
pope
I mean,
did and take
you
a
mentioned
dump
it
on us for
too,
the last 15 years?
and I see a lot of these debates on the ground too. And I guess I can only speak for myself. Like, I don't hold an animus against people that go to the Latin Mass, go to the traditional Latin Mass, or belong to the SSPX.
Mhm.
I just feel a deep sadness that we're not able to resolve these issues in the same way that, like, I don't like any other schismatic or whatever. Like, it's not like I personally like hate them or hold animus against them.
Yeah,
It's
no.
it's
And,
really
yeah,
just
any
unfortunate.
attack on
It's a
unity is
tragedy.
bad. Now, of course, we have what frustrates me is that those on the right, as it were, get excommunicated or whatever, and those on the left don't. But like Jim Martin, Father James Martin, he's promotes the worst kind of stuff on human sexuality and same-sex
I mean, they
relations
held
stuff.
a pride mass in New York City for Pride Month this, and I watched footage from it. I'm like, how is this
For sure.
not illicit?
And I guess
Double standard, no doubt.
Yeah.
well, I mean, it's not like they consecrated new bishops, which is sort of the thing.
Mhm.
That's ultimately that's the Pope's thing to
Right.
do, and so I get it, but it just is frustrating that we don't see any policing of the left
Yeah.
on stuff.
And
So.
Matt Fradd made this point. He was doing an interview last week right after the consecrations happened, and he made an interesting point too that the leadership in the church has kind of created the conditions that would. And again, it is the SSPX's free will choice to go a bridge too far and to put themselves in schism and to
Right.
defy the Bishop of Rome. 100% their free choice. But we also have created these conditions. And he's like, in America, he's traveled all over. In America, we think of goofy liturgies and Novus Orders and we complain about it. You go to Europe, and like when he was living at the Franciscan University campus in Austria, the Franciscan friars who are not trads, right? They would say, don't go to the local parish. It's an invalid Eucharist because the priest just makes up the words of consecration. And he's like, yeah, we either stuck to the campus or we had to go into Vienna, and they went to an SSPX chapel prior to the schism. So it was still okay. But they went there because the liturgy was actually valid. And it's that much harder in other parts of the world to find that. And so you understand what would drive people to bring their children to SSPX because you don't want to grow up in a parish like that.
Absolutely.
So
I mean,
again,
wasn't there also, there's some pretty
terrible
surprising
tragedy.
numbers on conversions in France.
Yeah.
I think there was more French conversions to TLM or TLM adjacent parishes than there were to
Well,
normal.
the SSPX is growing in ways that many dioceses in Western Europe and America are not for that reason. People thirst for reverent liturgy. And I think, like you were saying, the very best of our bishops here in the U.S., just the compassion that they've shown towards people who are attracted to this movement has been really beautiful to witness. And I hope that it also translates into concrete decisions to allow more TLM masses and more traditional liturgies, to encourage reverent Novus Ordos, priests who want to bring altar rails back, priests who want to offer traditional Gregorian chant. I hope that it does what Benedict was trying to do when he welcomed the TLM back.
Well, that's my question, Erica. I don't know if you know, because it might be like a canon law question, but is there a way out of this for SSPX?
Only reconciliation. They have to repent and be reconciled to Rome, and
which
to
would
accept
mean
Vatican II,
which would
as
mean that
valid.
the bishops that they invalidly consecrated would not be. They would just say, "I'm not a bishop anymore," or something like that.
Well, there's
Well,
options.
yeah.
There's options. If
Multiple
the
options.
new consecrated bishops came forward, like a year from now and said, "This was a mistake. I accept the church's teachings," the Pope, in his wisdom, could decide to allow them to remain bishops and allow and bless that consecration. But I ultimately think this is what frustrated me so much about. I'm not even a Latin Mass guy. What frustrated me so much about what Pope Francis did is that, yes, Benedict was trying to allow people who love the Latin Mass to flourish inside of the church. And by Francis putting so many constrictions on it, made it so people would just go, well, then I guess I'll leave. I mean, we can celebrate Latin Mass in a garage. I mean, give me a break. And so I want the way out of this, I think, is to allow the Latin Mass inside the church to flourish. Get rid of these restrictions. Get rid of these things that, it can't be at a regular parish. No, it should be at every parish that wants it. Like, that's what you want to happen. And let people who want the Latin Mass should be able to receive it like easily. It was a way of worship for this church for 1,500 years. Again, it's not even my thing, but I live in a place, thankfully, where I can get one within 40-minute drive. But a lot of people don't. And so if more and more people are given the ability to have a reverent traditional Latin Mass close to where they are, I think a lot of the energy will leave SSPX, and then, that's the way out of this problem, I would think.
Or they get more energy. I don't think so. If it was, like you said, the availability, clearly the hunger thirst is there. I think it was an own goal by Pope Francis to make that decision, because it just made it mysterious and cool. And then people found out, they're like, this is awesome. What I have is not awesome. And then they start looking back. And so I'm like, does it hurt the church for places like Institute of Christ the King to become super popular? No, I don't see any issue at all. Like, these are some of the most faithful, holy, humble men that I've ever met. Like the canons over there, St. John Cantus,
Right.
Same thing. Like, I think it's a net positive for the church for these things to become really popular.
But I mean, Francis legitimately didn't even have a problem with that. He just didn't want it to be at the local St. Matthew parish to also start having traditional Mass. I'm like, well, no, that was the whole point of what Benedict was trying to do.
Right, for them to inform each other, which
I think it'd be a benefit.
has done.
I think it'd be
And
a huge
again,
benefit.
this is one of those things that drives me crazy. I had a problem with Pope Benedict declaring John Paul blessed. I did not like that, because it's your immediate predecessor. You shouldn't have done it. You should wait. He should have had no influence on that. But that, because the idea behind being the Pope is you actually succeed Peter, not just the guy that went before you. And so I had a problem with that. But I had obviously a category larger problem with Francis immediately reversing something that is the person that was Pope right before him did on this Latin liturgy stuff. That just makes me so mad to have a church that's supposed to be about tradition and building off what the previous person did, and trying to do that instead of a complete 180 and rejecting something that he had done. I thought it was disgusting and frustrated me. And I'm never going to let go of it. It's just
agree.
so
And I agree on conditions. One final thing. I think from my understanding, the dogma argument is that in a state of emergency, they would have some justification to consecrate their own bishops. Now, are they just angry that they feel that hasn't been litigated properly out in the open? Because it feels to me that as people are saying, okay, they're not meeting with the Pope, was refusing to meet with them, or they're getting pushed off. They're not actually meeting. Like, don't you think that's been discussed? and they just think the answer is no. Like, who makes the final decision? Yeah, this isn't a legit state of emergency, or this isn't a justifiable state of emergency. Therefore, you can't do it. Does that have to go through some official?
No, only Peter can decide that, right? So the Pope
right.
himself, by the authority. So for them to be like, well, we don't recognize Peter's authority to decide the thing that Peter decides. It's just a circle. And I think the way that to steelman it a little bit, the response from the SSPX or the explanation has been it's a state of emergency. We wanted to meet with the Pope, whereas the DDF's explanation, and even Leo himself, is that, well, when they approach us asking for a meeting, they're already coming with, but we're not going to budge on these items, which are non-negotiables, like they have to do with the validity of Vatican II. Right. And so you can't go to the Pope and be like, we want to meet with you to tell you that we reject this council. To put it in very simple terms, there are nuances. Right. And so the Pope's like, no, I'm not going to meet with you to have you tell me that the council was invalid, because that's just not like. So there's both sides feel that they have all the nuance and all that. But at the end of the day, for a faithful Roman Catholic guy in the pew, we must remain faithful to Peter. And all throughout Francis's pontificate, I was critical of certain things that he did, all of that. But if he had come and said, like, this bishop is not allowed to consecrate bishops, I'm like, that's you. That's the authority given to you by Christ. So when it comes to moral faith and morals, dogmatic teaching on faith and morals, that's the magisterial teaching body of the church. The Pope is the head of the church. And so again, like,
case closed.
Case closed.
Yeah, hey,
case closed
and you know what I'll say? Any SSPX listeners that feel conflicted about this or put in a weird situation, hit the inbox, loopcast@catholicvote.org.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your side of the story too.
Yeah,
so, yeah,
definitely.
We're not judging. I'm not judging. I'm not wagging my finger. Nothing. I mean, I
dude, could you imagine?
Oh my gosh.
Tough spot.
Yeah, definitely tough spot. Okay, so let's go on now. Josh, Twilight Zone, what do you got?
Well, I mean, the Twilight Zone part of this was on the 250th anniversary of our independence. The communist mayor of New York City, Zoran Mandami, gave a speech from George Washington's desk, and he turned it around. So it's like you're looking at him and a bunch of people behind him that are going to lecture you about how evil you are and how much your country sucks. And that's exactly what he did. And I just want to say the best response to this communist mayor's speech was actually former Los Angeles mayor candidate who had his election stolen from him, Spencer Pratt. I am telling you,
election denier Josh?
He is a generational talent, and he gave a fantastic response to
generational talent, Josh.
He is
roll the
amazing.
tape.
That is a strong claim.
He really is. I mean, the thing is,
I'll listen.
You can tell he really believes in what he's saying. I mean, he's nailing it. He's talking in a way that's profound. Let's watch a little bit of this.
All right.
He's going from behind the desk.
The folding table.
It's a folding table.
Wait, is there a problem?
All right. There's no audio on it.
There's no audio on this?
Correct. I think there's an X on the audio.
Oh, why is it not working? Is it working now?
Nope.
No, bro.
Let's see.
I think you have mute on X or something.
No. Reshare. Yeah, I'll try it again. Nothing? Oh no.
Oh no.
It's not on mute there.
Such a wind up.
Like, turn off the screen share completely. I tried. All right, we'll try it.
Try one more time.
Welcome to the trust tree. I was
I'll
evicted
tell
from
you,
the
as
office.
we're waiting for this to load, I mean, he talks about loving your country, which what Mandami does not. And he creates, I think, a really good analogy.
All right, what do we see? Let's see.
We all had to
Good?
There we go. Yep.
sit and watch that vile commie mayor sit on the wrong side of our founding fathers' desks to try and lecture us about our own history. Notice how the communist always attacks your history. The communist must attack your history. Why? Because history is what anchors you. It's what makes us attached to something. Nostalgia is a hell of a drug. History breeds an almost irrational attachment to things, an attachment that is more powerful than anyone can imagine. Erasing history is how you demoralize people, how you unmoor them and detach them from their society so you can take it from them and rewrite it in your image. Think of your country like a home. What makes your home special? It's not the marble countertops or the expensive furniture or the fancy appliances. It's the memories you have there. That backyard is where we got married. That living room rug is where our son took his first step. Hey, don't touch that. That was his first teddy bear. It doesn't matter how torn and tattered that thing is. You will never get rid of it. And you will fight anyone who tries to take it away. Why? Because you have history with it. You ever buy a new home? Remember those first few months? Even the first few years there, it doesn't feel like home. It could be a million times nicer than the crappy apartment you came from, but it doesn't feel like home for a long time because you don't have history there. It's easy to knock down some walls, change the floor plan. If you have no memories to attach you to it, it's just wood and drywall. Who cares? Get rid of it. Memories make it a home, even the bad ones. Hey, remember when Dad hit his head on the rafter in the attic and we spent all night in the ER? That's the avocado tree I fell out of and broke my first bone. Isn't it weird how even the bad memories make us cherish a place? It's not like we long for those bad times, but bad times are part of what makes us stronger, a part of what makes us who we are. How can you resent those memories without fundamentally resenting who you are? History is so important to humans that even bad memories anchor us to our home. And that's what the communist always starts with, the bad
What is this
memories.
music?
Oh, we can get rid of that little story. We can knock down that statue. We can change the name of that street. That's a bad memory from our history. You don't want that memory hanging around. You're not a bigot, right?
Is he
and
rapping?
slowly but surely, this wall comes down. Then that wall gets sledgehammered. The rafter where Dad hit his head, that's gone. The rug where your son took his first step, that's gone. The gash in the wood floor where you stomped the glass on your wedding ceremony, that's gone and replaced with shiny vinyl planks. And now you've got a brand new home with no memories. Now, what? Do you care what they do with it? Do you care
What's great about this is, of course, the LA officials didn't do anything for the homeowners, like Spencer Pratt, who lost his home, and a lot of others who lost their home, and they won't even let him rebuild. And they never filled up the reservoir. And he's talking about this stuff because they want to torch it all and remake it anew in their own image and make Section 8 housing and all this kind of stuff. The guy gets it, man. I tell you.
Do you know where he is in this video, Josh?
Huh?
Do you know what the setting of the background of the video was, where he's delivering this?
Well, he was, of course,
take a guess.
Mondami had the desk, and so he was doing the folding table that he basically...
Right, but what's the location he's on, do you know?
Right, it's where his house was burnt down.
Palisades.
Yeah, it's
right?
the Palisades.
That still have not been rebuilt.
Right.
That's exactly my point.
Right. Yeah. No, it's good. Good. So that was actually my big critique with the Mamdani speech. For someone that's so obsessed with optics, that looked terrible. Like the
so
people
ugly.
behind him
Dour.
were
Yeah.
dour. There was
Little
no
plastic
depth.
flags.
The color was bad.
Hamburg, how dare
I don't know
you
who
kind of
did that, because
aesthetic.
usually he's spot on with that, but that was bad. And then you look at like Pratt's was actually like well lit, clearly good cinematography, important place. Like he said it was an important place. It was the mayor's office and it was behind, but it just looked really weird. That was what stuck out most.
I'm just saying that I feel like this guy has got a real good understanding of precisely what is animating a lot of the commie left right now. And, Spencer, give up on California, brother.
Yeah. What do you think's next for him? Do you think he's got a future?
Move to Texas, move to Florida.
Didn't he meet?
governor.
I think he met with Trump, right? He met with the.
Yeah, he just went to the White House. That's right.
Do you think, if you had to wild guess, what's next for Spencer Pratt?
The future is very bright.
Mm-hmm. But he's got to get out of California.
Yeah.
Well, no, I mean, of course,
I think he
Donald
does.
Trump got elected president out of New York. So, you can be elected from a blue city in a blue state.
It's true.
True. Okay.
Anyway,
Spencer Pratt on the radar.
I'm saying he needs, but he's got the. I mean, if I were him,
He was a
I'd run
reality
for
TV star.
Yeah, if I were him, I'd run for president 28 anyway. You got nothing to lose. Just get out there and
Yeah, just a small undertaking. Run for president.
that would be great. I mean, Trump did it with
Just
No
a couple
staff.
millions more. I don't know how much Spencer Pratt has, but okay, Erica,
right.
what do you got?
Okay, I have good news, bad news, and an ode to Tom McCluskey,
Sweet.
winner of the Patriotic Snake Draft last week, which you missed, Tom, because you were off. in
Oh heck yeah, I love a good
Wisconsin
snake draft.
But we had a good time, and Tom won. But it starts off with dark news. So you remember the One Big Beautiful bill a year ago? It had a 1-year pause on, I think it was Medicaid reimbursements for Planned Parenthood. So it was like a 1-year defunding, and to the shame of the United States of America, on our big birthday weekend, that expired. And so this weekend, Planned Parenthood and 2 other family planning, to put it mildly, organizations, they were able to resume getting those Medicaid reimbursements. They say they're for non-abortion services because they follow the law and the Hyde Amendment to the T, I understand from their spokesperson. But we are once again funding Planned Parenthood, which gets 96% of its income is from abortions and gender mutilating surgeries. So they're announcing at offices like Arizona, they're resuming expanded hours, telehealth options so that they can kill babies in other states. The main office, some services are not resuming. So they're saying like, oh my gosh, we can't have primary care doctors anymore because they were in an inevitable or totally defunded for a year. So it's too late, which is great. Here's how I read abortion every day, once a week, because it's very depressing. It's Jessica Valenti's outfit and it just exists to make more abortions. But here's how they framed it. This was welcome news after a year that saw tens of thousands of patients cut off from basic health care, meaning abortion. But as Nora Walsh DeVries of Planned Parenthood Action Fund told Politico, the damage is irreparable. So here's the good news. After all, health centers that have already closed can't just reopen now, and that the funding is back. Republicans are, here's what they claim though, Republicans are still pursuing a permanent defund law, if only. And a Supreme Court decision last year allows individual states to block Medicaid funds for Planned Parenthood and other clinics. That list so far: Arkansas, Mississippi, Missouri, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, and Texas. So while this was disappointing, terrible news that this was allowed to expire, and we are once again funding Planned Parenthood with our federal tax dollars, there was what they're calling permanent damage done as a result of this 1 year pause. Over 300 clinics closed around the country. So this was good. And here's my ode to Tom McCluskey, because you could just get black-pilled about the Trump administration and be like, they've betrayed the pro-life movement.
Yep.
It's hopeless. Or you can get back on the wagon and start fighting again. And I'm proud to announce Catholic Vote has joined this coalition supporting OMB, or Office of Management and Budget, grant reforms that will have hopefully the same or the effect of continuing to defund and to draw funds away from abortion giants like Planned Parenthood. So they're taking a different tactic. Obviously, we would love for this defunding to be reinstated as soon as possible and we get a permanent defund law. But instead of being black-pilled, Tom McCluskey and his band of brothers back on the wagon. So thank you, Tom, for continuing to fight and not getting so discouraged that you just give it up and go back to upstate New York, which would be equally depressing, probably.
Facts.
But, yeah.
Like I have to go to Buffalo. No slide on the Buffalo homies, but
it's not a great place to be.
Okay, mine. Now I got some questions. All right. The resident conspiracy theorist is back. Someone's got to tell me what's going on with Mitch McConnell, Josh. Where is he? What is going on? Why is his wife in China?
Is he the GOP, Joe Biden?
Now, I'm going to lay this out. Okay. I know no one seems to know. So Mitch McConnell, now age 84, he was hospitalized on June 14th. Okay. So that's 3 weeks ago now, at least. And as of July 7th, last night, 8th today, it's technically recovering in the hospital is what we're being told. His office has released very limited information saying that he's recovering, receiving care, and remains engaged with Senate work. AP reports that aides have not disclosed the specific reason for his hospitalization. Okay, so there's no official story on why he was hospitalized. He's been in a hospital for 3 weeks. We have no answer. He's also 84. Now, CBS and ABC reported that emergency medical personnel were dispatched to McConnell's DC home that same morning for an unconscious person who appeared to be in cardiac arrest. CBS reported that the dispatch audio included cardiac arrest and CPR in progress, but also emphasized that McConnell's name is not heard in the call, and CBS has not independently confirmed the identity of the unconscious person. Now, we really got to pretend like who else lives with McConnell and would potentially have a heart attack? I mean, that's crazy. We can't just connect the dots there. But, I guess has not been confirmed. So now we're getting some Joe Biden-esque tweets, even with some of the same language, from the one and only Scott Jennings. I spoke to my old friend Mitch McConnell this morning. This is July 7th. yesterday. The senior senator from Kentucky, he's still recovering in the hospital. We talked just shy of 20 minutes about Iran, Ukraine, and the unfolding situation in Maine, my visit to the TR Presidential Library, and even a little bit of Senate history. I told him we want to see him back at work as soon as possible. Funny, other people posted around the same time exactly the same things. I spoke to my old friend, Mitch McConnell, this morning, the senior senator from Kentucky. Interesting choice of language, exactly the same. He's still recovering in the hospital. We talked for just shy of 45 minutes. He's so sharp. Just like he always let me do the talking. He's a great listener. After that, we prayed silently a while and had a stare contest.
Satire account.
I know. I was just seeing if anyone picked up on that. I was joking on the Jack Campbell one, but Senator John Barrasso from Wyoming's spokesperson, Kate Noyes. Senator Barrasso and Senator McConnell had a lengthy conversation earlier this afternoon. Their phone call lasted roughly 20 minutes. Senator McConnell was fully engaged and eager to get back to the Senate. So there's a couple people that came out. I believe John Thune also said I had like a 20-minute conversation. Everyone said they had a 20-minute conversation. Everyone's talking to him for 20 minutes, I guess. Now, the interesting element of this is, and I didn't really know much about his wife, but I just saw something. His wife was doing meetings in China during his hospitalization. Ooh. And not just with anyone, with the Chinese vice president, Han Zheng. Local Kentucky outlet WLKY reported several appearances in China amid McConnell's hospitalization. Now, Elaine Chao is not just a random spouse of a senator. I don't know if you know anything about her, Josh. She's the former Secretary of Labor, former Secretary of Transportation, and one of the most prominent Asian American Republicans in modern U.S. politics. I believe she served under Bush. She also comes from a powerful international shipping family with long-running China-related scrutiny, which is why her reported China trip during McConnell's unexplained hospitalization has become part of the story. I think he said he's retiring, Josh, after this term.
No, that's already known. I mean,
Right.
Democrats and Republicans have already nominated somebody to go up to fill that seat. This November, there'll be an election in Kentucky to find out who will succeed Mitch McConnell. The question is, what would happen if he died? If he died, let's say, for example, today, actually, ironically enough, the governor in Kentucky would have little power. All he can do is declare a special election because Mitch McConnell convinced the legislature back in 2024, I believe, hey, change the law. So if there's a vacancy, the Democratic governor of this state won't be able to pick an appointment that will call for a snap special election. Now, if Mitch McConnell stays alive for another couple of weeks or months or whatever, then there won't be a need for a special election. It'll just be the regular election in November that will fill the seat come January.
Do you know another prominent member of the House that could potentially run for that seat?
From Kentucky.
Well, I mean, of course, Andy Barr is a member of the House.
I'm not talking about Andy Barr, Josh.
No.
Oh, you're
Not
talking
talking
about
about Andy
Massey, who's got
I'm
defeated?
talking about Tom Massey.
Well, so if there were, let's say there were a special election, and the election could be in September, October, they might just make the special election also on November, and the person who would win that race would become senator as soon as the votes were certified. But it would probably just be Andy Barr as well, and so he would take office, like in November, as opposed to waiting until January to be sworn in. So no, Tom Massey is not going to. In fact, by the way,
Tom.
those who like Tom Massey, have you noticed Rand Paul has been like on a heater talking about how bad birthright citizenship is? He's like distancing himself from like the pure libertarianism stuff. He's trying to make sure he's covering his six. Now, of course, he's doing what I call a fake thing. Rand Paul is calling for an amendment to the United States Constitution to end birthright citizenship, which is wait till you get one more justice on the Supreme Court and get it right, or just pass a law. Like the 14th Amendment provides in there a provision that says Congress has the authority to declare, provisions of this amendment. Like, you don't need a constitutional amendment. I think Rand Paul is just saying that as cover because he doesn't actually want to believe in ending birthright citizenship because he's a libertoid. But that's just me.
Oh, interesting. Almost like Trump saying he's not going to start any new wars.
Hey.
Just say it's a tactic that's been
over.
used. Yeah, ceasefire's over, I guess, or whatever that meant. And we were firing each other the whole time. Ah, man. Yeah.
But I mean, like,
okay, wait. But
like
what do you think?
Are like,
Josh, come on. Not trust tree. We're in the trust tree. Mitch McConnell had a heart attack, right? There's no way.
I would think he had a heart attack, yes, and I think he's, not exactly feeling great, but I don't believe he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Because if he was dead, like his wife is a Politico, she's not that callous. She's probably was going to come home from China. She had probably this massive thing set up, and the senator said, "I'm fine. I'm going to recover. It's going to be a long journey, but just continue doing what you're doing. You don't have to disrupt this thing that you planned." And he's thinking, "I'm fine. Whatever. I'll just sit in the." So all these conspiracy theories. Oh, it's he's dead. He's really dead. They're keeping him alive. I just like, for what purpose? And the people comparing this to Biden. McConnell is not the president of the United States. He's not even the leader of the Republicans. John Thune is now. He stepped down from leadership, a year and a half ago or whatever. So he's a senator. The people of Kentucky have a right to complain about this process if they think it's not transparent enough. But it's not like there's been a consequential vote. If, for example, Alito had announced that he was retiring, for example, then we're like, hey, buddy, like,
we need some,
we might need your vote on the Supreme Court thing, so,
Right.
but
because the Senate's not in session right now, right?
I believe they are out of session, yes, and then they'll be back in session soon for a couple of weeks, and then they go on recess for August.
Recess. Mm-hmm.
Right. Interesting. And Mitch McConnell is on your Mount Rushmore, probably, of effective politicians, right?
He is extremely effective. There's no question. And by the way, I will always, as much as he's frustrated me over Ukraine, because he's definitely of the neocon bent, I don't like that.
Yep.
But in this house, we support Mitch McConnell for what he did.
In this house, we believe in Mitch.
Seat open on the Supreme Court.
Cocaine Mitch.
Let us fill it by Neil Gorsuch. That, to me, there's no doubt that conservatives, they were very concerned about Donald Trump in 2016, knowing that he was going to put someone on the court, and he gave that list of 20 names. To me, it was no question that was what caused the election. If we would have allowed Barack Obama to put Merrick Garland on the Supreme Court, that would have just been a death knell.
Yeah.
And we're still fighting.
Listen,
we're fighting because Mitch McConnell kept us in the fight.
Listen, hope he is doing fine. I'm not like wishing for the man's illness. Like, I hope he's doing fine. I'd appreciate some more transparency with our government, because remember when Lloyd Austin just disappeared for 2 weeks?
Yeah. Yes, I do.
But again, what is up with this? Why can't we just be honest?
If it's a senator or a congressman, it's one thing. But if you're running an agency or running the government,
the military,
like Biden was, that's a lot different.
Totally.
And again,
Lloyd, it's different, but it's also
surgery, there's a process for this. Have your second in command. Hey, you're in charge now. That was what was so disturbing about what Lloyd Austin did. Like, there's a procedure here.
I think my biggest issue is just, can we get age limits? I'm with you, Mercer. Can we get age limits on the Senate? Like, he's 84. We have the president's 80. Like, 3 people are turning 80 this year. I forget who
Nancy
they are.
Pelosi's still in there.
Nancy Pelosi's there.
Still rocking.
Till January. Yeah.
She can barely walk. Like, come on, guys. You got to know when to.
No, I think I kind of joke
sunset.
80 is enough. But
would that be your limit, actually? If you
probably
wave
would,
a wand? 80.
I would actually make it. I think 70 is.
Agree. I think 70 is a
70.
sweet spot.
Yep. We need succession planning here. Hand the batons.
Yep.
Boomers.
Okay. Well, good stuff, gang. What was are we still doing the?
Hey, it's America 250. We've got Cardinal Burke.
It's true.
His prayer.
Yeah, I guess we have been hitting that. We did hit 250. You only turned 250 once. So we'll end today with the prayer by Cardinal Leo. Also, I said on the show, but he's the best, man. So cool meeting him.
It was cool.
It was meeting a legend for sure. So anyway, we'll say the prayer. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. In the name of the Father, Son, Holy Spirit. Amen. O Sacred Heart of Jesus, King of heaven and earth, I place today my nation, the United States of America, into your heart pierced for love of us. On the 250th anniversary of the Declaration of Independence, I acknowledge that true liberty is your gift and that our lasting homeland is the eternal kingdom of God. Under the mantle of Our Lady of Guadalupe, patroness of the Americas, and through the intercession of her Immaculate Heart, bless my homeland anew, purify her from sin, and guide her leaders in truth, justice, and peace, so that she may safeguard all human life, respect the integrity of marriage and the family, and honor the practice of religion. Reign in my home and in my nation, draw every heart into communion with you, that your truth, love, justice, mercy, and peace may triumph in America and throughout the whole world. Amen. St. Thomas More, St. Fidelis, Our Lady of Guadalupe, pray for us. Great show, gang. We'll catch you guys next Wednesday. Eric, you got an episode of The Deep coming out on Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Got to
gonna be
check it
awesome.
out.
Check it out. And Morning Loop from Josh, of course.
Yeah.
Peace.
Always a good hit.